Hi, everybody. Good evening. I am so thrilled to have you all with us on this Friday night. And you chose to spend your time with us this evening. And as some of you may have heard, it's my birthday weekend. And so maybe secretly I planned this just for myself so I could spend time with other book lovers, maybe. So to begin, my name is Rand Silverman, and I am a literary agent at Stimola Literary Studio, and I'm going to be putting some links in the chat as we go. So I will give you guys a link to the studio so you can see more about it, as well as our social media handles, and I hope you will follow along with us on those handles. Thank you for the birthday wishes. I see them coming in. I wanted to thank SCBWI, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, for spreading the word about the event, as well as Gotham Writers Group. And those are both incredible organizations for you to join and look into so that you can find writing communities near you, workshops that apply to what it is that you want to write, so on and so forth. I cannot recommend them more, and I thank them for spreading the word about our events. What else can I tell you guys? All right, so I have with us 4 of my clients, Matthew Burgess, Aram Kim, Juliana, Perdomo, and Lala, Watkins. I have been working with each of them for a varied amount of time, some for many years, some for just a few months. So you're going to get a great range of experience there. And I'm going to bring each one in and tell you a little bit about them. And then we're going to get straight to the questions that you all sent in on Stimola Live. So we're answering the things that you have asked us to answer. And then we will leave some time for you to ask some new questions today. And at the end of the event, I will talk more about myself as an agent. The first person I am going to bring in is Aram Kim. All right, let's bring her in. Hi, Aram.
Hi, Erica. Hi, everyone. So good
to
be here.
Show you the cover of Aram's newest book, Sunday Fun Day in Koreatown, which is publishing this spring.
Thank you for printing that out. I don't even have one.
Well, I got a colored printer, which was very exciting for my family, so any excuse to use it.
Awesome.
So let me tell you all that Aram Kim is a New York-based children's book author and illustrator and a book designer. She was born in Ohio, spent her childhood in South Korea, and now lives in Queens, New York. This spring, she's publishing her 3rd picture book in her Uni Friends and Family series, Sunday Fun Day in Koreatown. It's publishing with Holiday House. And Aram likes bringing distinctive South Korean flair to the work she creates. Her books have been honored as Junior Library Guild selections, Bank Street Best Books of the Year, ILA, CBC Picks, and more. And we just learned the amazing news that Aram is going to be illustrating the bookmark for Children's Book Week, which is so fun.
It's very surreal. So I haven't even talked to anyone about it yet, but the news is out. So yeah, thank you so much. I'm really excited and honored, and it's still very surreal. So yeah, I'm very excited.
It's really great to have you here because you can not only speak as a children's book author and illustrator, but you can speak as somebody who's an insider in a publishing house as a book designer. And Aram is an incredible, she's like a promotion maven. I mean, she's really, really wonderful. So I can't wait to hear you speak to all the questions that have come in today.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me here.
Okay, Matthew Burgess, we're going to bring in next. Hi, Matthew.
Hello, hello.
And Matthew has 2 books coming out this spring. This gorgeous Make Meatballs Sing, Life and Art of Sister Karita Kent, I think is what the final. This might not be a final cover.
I think that's the final cover, yeah. She was a sister, and then she sought dispensation from her vows, was no longer a sister. So you can refer to her in both ways.
And also Bird Boy with Knopf. Make Meatballs is with Enchanted Lion, and Bird Boy is with Knopf.
Yeah.
So also coming this spring. And I will tell you about Matthew. You just have to sit through it, Matthew.
Okay.
There's nothing else to do. Matthew is an author and poet and assistant professor at Brooklyn College. His picture books have been selected as best books of the year by the Washington Post, Boston Globe, Kirkus, Brain Pickings. He's gotten multiple starred reviews. He has 2 picture books publishing this spring, Bird Boy and Make Meatballs Sing. He's a poet in residence in New York City Public Schools since 2001. He also serves as a contributing editor of Teachers and Writers magazine.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you so much for being here. You're going to be able to talk to so many angles, not to be missed, actually working with kids directly often, and working with other writers directly often. Yeah. So more interesting hats. Okay. Now I'm very pleased to bring in, I'm looking at my list here, Juliana Perdomo. Here she comes. Hi, Julie.
Hi, everyone.
And I actually have Julie's book, which just arrived yesterday. I was so excited.
I got it today, too.
Yeah.
I'm so happy.
And so Julie comes to us from Colombia, and her background is as a psychologist and an art therapist. Her board books with Corto have been recognized by Parents Magazine as best books of the year. And her Illustrator debut, El Cucuy is Scared Too, comes out this spring with Abrams. And her authorial debut, her own author illustrated picture book, will publish with Candlewick in 2022, Sometimes All I Need Is Me. And Julie is one of the clients that it's an example, I was scrolling through Instagram in bed, and I came across Kidlit TV's post, and Kidlit TV had reposted one of your images, and I literally it launched me out of bed. I was like, I couldn't get to the computer fast enough. Well, that somebody else might have seen this post and well to you. And that was how I found Julie. It was so grateful to Kidlit TV ever since. Really, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, and lastly, but not least, the newest client to add to my roster has agreed to join us. So brave, Lala Watkins.
Hi. Happy to be here. Join the party.
Happy for you to be here. And Lala's a great example. One of my clients, Mika Song, has a comics weekly mailing that you can join called Sunday Haha. And I get the mailing every week, as do my kids. They read it. It's full of great comics strips. And she calls me one day and she says, "You've seen the Lala Watkins comic strip, haven't you, Erica?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Well, I don't know what you're waiting for." And I said, "You're right. I don't know what I'm waiting for either." I'm like, she wants to make books. And so also wonderful when my clients themselves, keep an eye out in the industry for who's making amazing work and who wants to make books. And that's how Lala and I were able to meet. And so Lala is an illustrator based in Florida, and her work is like a summer pool party, and everyone's invited. She has closed her first book deal, still unannounced.
Ooh.
Exciting news. She graduated with a BFA in graphic design and interactive communications from Ringling College of Art and Design. And she's in a long-term relationship with the sun. She is our newest studio family member. So Lala, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So from here, I'm just going to get right into the questions that came in because we have so much to accomplish in 1 hour. I want to get to as much of it as possible. The first question that came in on the survey that I sent out in Stimola Live was this: what is it like working with an agent? Now, this is somewhat awkward because I am an agent and I am sitting here, but I still think there's a lot to be shared and learned, even though I'm here. So what is it like?
I can start because I did have my first 2 books without an agent. And then after that, I started working with Erica. So before I got an agent, I wasn't, like I didn't know the benefits of working with the agents because I thought I could connect with the art directors directly, connect with the editors directly. Wouldn't that be easier? And also another thing I thought was that actually getting an agent is as difficult as getting an editor or art director to look at your work. So it's like double the work. So I did, but I was very lucky that I did get to work on the books without the agent. But then after I started working with Erica, I cannot recommend more to have an agent on your side. Just having someone that would look out for you all the time and who is just completely on your side, who also understand the publishing side. So the agent is like such a great bridge between the creators and the publishers who understand both creative sides and the business side. So yeah, before, I always say that it's great to have an agent, but if you can work by yourself, that's fine too. But then more and more I work with Erica, I just think that having the agent makes a really big difference.
That's good to hear. Anybody else want to speak to that? Thanks, Julie.
I think it's super important to have a good agent as well, because you need to have someone by your side who truly believes in what you can do and who is passionate about your dreams the same way as you are. Because then, I mean, it's kind of like a mentorship. Erica has guided me through stuff that I didn't even know were like possibilities. So I think that is the key also to find someone who you are in tune with as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's so much to learn about this business, and there's so much to learn about what's out there and the different kinds of houses and editors. And so having an agent, having Erica as an agent in particular, really guides you through and just puts so many different things on your radar. And it's exciting. It's fun to find out more about the industry. And then there's this other aspect I just realized when the question came up, that Erica, in one instance, like kind of whispered an idea into my ear over breakfast. It was like, just like, I would like to see a book about this. And like that led to the sudden writing of a manuscript, which became a book, and now hasn't been announced yet, but it's the Red Tin Box. And then in another instance, like Erica sent me some images from an illustrator, and she sort of like anticipated that there might be a connection. And I saw this image of this boy, and the image itself kind of like was the thing that stirred the story, that made the story come up, and that is becoming Bird Boy. So I hadn't anticipated that response, but in fact, there are these other benefits, and that collaboration can really be fruitful.
I'll say, like, for me, I'm still new to this. So when Erica called me on the phone to discuss, I was like, okay, if I was on a date with Erica, like, how does she make me feel? And like, because you have to think about that. With an agent, it's also a business relationship, but also a relationship that could last a lifetime. So for me, it was really important to feel heard and to be listened to and just feel good. When I was telling Erica about my ideas and just what I aim to do in the publishing world and what I want to bring, she was a great listener. And she just understood everything that I wanted. So I was like, okay, great. I'm ready. I can do this. I'm going to say yes. So for me, I think a good thing is to think about, like, would you date your agent? Like, if you not words, but like, would you see your agent as like a long time best friend? Like, would you go over to the house? Like, and all that stuff. Like, do you feel like this person can advocate for you and be your cheerleader? And I feel like Erica can be a big cheerleader for me. there are times when I don't feel it, but Erica's like, you got it. And I'm like, okay, thank you, Erica. I needed that pep talk.
You do got it. I didn't realize how good this was going to make me.
Yeah, this is great.
Same time, same place next week.
I kind of want to add to that about like Lala and Juliana about like having to find the right agent, because it is the process that you get to know the person. And I think as creators, like authors and illustrators who are unagented, it's very easy to jump in the chance when someone just reaches out to you because you're so eager to be represented. But it is a long process of getting to know the person. You need to see if you would be getting along with the person, if you are suiting with that relationship. So fight that urge to jump into it just right away. You need to get to know the person.
Yeah.
I think, Lala, what you're saying is so wise, actually. Like, it's a funny metaphor because, in fact, you're not dating your agent. There's none of that. But it's like the point that you make that's such a good one is how do you feel? Like, to go, like, does this person make me feel calm? Or, like, do I feel anxious in this dialogue? Or do I feel centered and excited and ready to move forward? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And I think that's a really smart point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. You have to have the chemistry.
Yeah.
I actually used to think that I'm fine with very business relationship with the agent because I thought, well, I like building a relationship with like editors and art directors myself. I just want my agent to take care of like the paper and money and all this like those stuff. But then Erica is very easy to talk to. I mean, I wouldn't hesitate to text her anytime, any day. I don't, but I wouldn't. I feel very comfortable. And I think that is very important that, I mean, if you feel hesitant to get in touch with your agent, that is probably not the right relationship.
There's also so many great agents, especially in children's publishing. I have to say, I have many dear friends who do what I do, and I feel like we're a very lucky industry that there are so many wonderful people in it. I mean, it truly is just the best. But every agent is a little bit different, and they all have different skill sets. And they all have good and bad days too. So, you know, nobody's perfect all the time, but it is good to know when you are looking for an agent, what it is that you need support in most. And that's something I think is worthwhile to consider when you're talking to different people. I'm going to move on to the next question, just in the interest of time. Now, this could be a whole thing just in and of itself, obviously. But so let's say you get the agent, or you don't get the agent, but you get the book deal anyway. And you're having to work a 9-to-5 job and now make a book at the same time. How do you manage your time?
I can go. It is challenging. It is challenging all the time, always. I think the compromise I found is that I just go very slow. On bookmaking side. So, I mean, I would love to make more books, but I do need to focus on my day job during the day. I don't want either side to suffer. So, yeah. But also, the good thing about having a day job is that I don't feel too anxious about not having too many books out because there are other things going on too. But it is always challenging for sure.
I think that's a really good point, Aram, about the benefit of having another job where you're making enough money to survive, that it takes the pressure off so that you don't feel like you have to necessarily live off this in particular. And that would put a lot of pressure. And if you can do it, fantastic. But I think finding a way to alleviate that pressure by having another job is great. I either think that for the writer, it would be interesting to hear from an illustrator point of view, because I do think at the end of the day, the illustrator puts in more hours, I think. I mean, I don't know how other authors will feel about that, but one of the beauties of the shorter form of some, children's books is that you can work on more than one thing at a time. I mean, I imagine that if you're working on a novel or a YA novel or a longer form, you really immerse in that project. But with picture books, especially, you can, and I think it's a good idea to be working on several things and have things in the drawer. And so there's something nice about being able to open up and work on this and then come over here and work on this. And that is amenable with a full-time job, I think.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and say that it was really challenging when I was doing it. And there was times I was just like, all right, we're just going to go do an all-nighter. We're in college again. This is the time. And other times it was just like, okay, I have a good enough timeline that I can space it out within a day and do it a little bit after work. So it's just finding a balance. I found that when I took my time, it was like, okay, gave myself like an hour, 25 minutes to work on it daily and just keep at it until the deadline, that I felt more relieved than when it was like, it's due tomorrow. Let's just stay up late, do that. That I was like stressful, and I was like, okay. So just setting up very good, I guess, deadlines and schedules for yourself when you can. Yeah. And then other times just, listen to some Disney music or something and just pretend you're in Hawaii and you're doing a great job.
Yeah. A second part to that question was, if you have children, how do you manage, taking care of your kids if you're doing that full time, or even if you're not doing that full time, and making books?
Well, I can relate to that one. I have an 8-year-old son. And to be honest, during the pandemic, everything changed, because now I have to be like a homeschooling mentor, and it's completely different. I used to have so many hours during the day while he was in school. But I think the key is to just be kind to yourself, kind of. Don't give yourself a hard time, because to be honest, I don't multitask at all the time. There are days that I'm flowing, everything's great, everything feels perfect, in sync, my kid's happy, my house clean, I work for hours, but then the next day I can hardly get him out of his pajamas, and I can barely draw a little flower. So I think that the thing that has kept me like sane is to think that everything has a right time to come. Everything has a right time to be. So maybe that little flower that I just did that day that I didn't do anything else can become the centerpiece of the next illustration and the inspiration for a whole new project. So I would say that my advice is, first, to take it easy, because you're surviving a pandemic and you're doing your best. And second, try to do a little thing every day, because just a little thing is moving forward from yesterday. So just a tiny little flower, anything goes. And like Lala said, and Aram, it's all about timing too. Like maybe some projects take more time, and you can do a little bit every day and just enjoy the process, because if you do it with love, things will flow. And don't put stress to the deadline for the next day, because that can actually bring you down and get worse results, I guess. Yeah.
It's like impossible not to just call Julie every day. I have to resist every day not to start my day with calling Julie for a pep talk.
Yeah, no, but it's true. It's very hard to be a parent and do everything, because we have had to do so many things that we didn't know we were even able to do during these years. So the best thing you can do is give yourself love and like just a little faith that everything is going to be fine and things will get solved in the end.
Right? But I think you're right too, that the energy you bring to the process of making what you're making is felt in what you create.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you do, like, 'cause we're writing for kids, and so you want to try to bring that sense of fun and aliveness to your process.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
So beautiful. I love it. So, okay, you've made the book. Somehow you've managed to make the book while designing books, raising children, going to school, teaching college courses, and now you have to promote. So now you have to promote the book that's coming out and make new books and do the other things that you were doing before. How do you manage that promotion piece of it alongside the book making and the other jobs?
I feel like, Aram, you're first, and we go like.
She's always the first.
No, I could definitely talk about it. It was a long process to learn how to do it. And I definitely didn't know how to do it at the beginning. So I think my first book suffered because I never really promoted it and then just like jumped right into like working on the next one. And I did with the SCBWI piece before. I think it was Dawn Tate, author illustrator, talking about how you need to learn how to manage your time and brain and not compartmentalize, like when you are working on your new book, but you're also at the same time promoting your book that's already out. And it did take a while. But then, I mean, like I have gone to a lot of workshops to learn how to do that too. And I think what really changed my conception itself actually is that the books that you put so much time and love, like energy, effort to it to publish. And the thing is that the book, you're not the only one who owns the book. So once you complete the book, you like send it to your publisher, and of course your agent worked on it to get it to the publisher. And once you get it to the publisher, there are so many people at the publishing house who are working on your book. It's actually really amazing to see how many people are behind the scene to make your book really beautiful, and like they try to get it to the readers. So when you understand like how much effort that go into get your book out to get to the readers, and how many people are involved, I think you just feel the responsibility that you need to work to get that book out to the readers. And your book deserves the right readers, and you need to really work hard on it. And actually, it's very gratifying to get the reaction too. So when you get your books to the readers, and when you get that reaction, like when you see that kids are really reacting to them, that's when you are really inspired to promote your book. And once you get into that groove, you kind of learn how to put time apart to promote and put time apart to create new books. And of course, your day job cannot suffer. And so, yeah, it's a process to learn.
Yeah, I almost feel like this question in particular needs another follow-up workshop because there's too much to say. I mean, there are too many details that we juggle in trying to promote a book. So I'm thinking like, what could be useful just as a takeaway, since we can't really like get into the nitty-gritty. And so I would just say, like, you know, you learn as you go, and you start to get a knack for it. And so you can just understand that this is something you're going to build over time. You're going to get better at it over time. You start making a list of contacts, which Erica has taught me to do, and you let that list of contacts grow. You maybe start a newsletter. You definitely start an Instagram page or whatever you call it, an Instagram account, and you start following people whose work you admire and you love, and interact with them. And like, there are all these different components which are probably pretty self-explanatory. But I think I would just say that the first time you do it, it can feel overwhelming, but you get the hang of it. So like, if you're not sure how to do a story hour, how to structure that, you kind of get the hang of it, and then you duplicate it or you replicate it and adapt it to those future events. I don't know. What would you guys add?
Well, this is the first time I'm going to do a promotion of a book because it's the first US book that I publish. But I think what Matthew says is key, like get your work out there through social media, through your contacts, newsletters, whatever. And also we have a huge advantage in the agency because we get to share like things from other colleagues and stuff. And I think that's very important to get your work out there. Also, I have to say for me, because I live in another country, the whole digital thing, virtual thing is amazing because I can still get to go to events. Well, people have been living that through the pandemic anyways, but you can still be present and like try to connect with everyone in different ways. And you don't have to move around, so you have more time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a homeschooling lesson and the next minute I can still be doing a live a live thing with, to promote my book. And I think that's amazing. And we have to take advantage of that.
I think also I'll say before we move on, just remembering why you made the book in the first place. Because I think you can lose sight of the authentic purpose behind the work. And it's the authentic purpose of the work that is going to help you find the right readers and help you connect with the right people who are going to spread the word about your book. So spending some time to remind yourself, because you can kind of, you make a book and then a long time happens before that book comes out. It's like a couple of years, and you're probably deep and seeped in a whole nother project by then. You have to really like reframe yourself. Like when I held up Bird Boy to Matthew, he was probably like, oh yeah, because he probably hasn't even started thinking about Bird Boy. He's deep in these other books right now. So when you get to that point, when it's coming, you have to sit with the project and remind yourself why you made that book and what's meaningful to you about it and who you want to reach with it and why. And when you think about those things and you're spreading those messages, it'll come across to the right people who need to hear them. And so I think that is the foundation that's really important to remember.
And that's very beautiful too.
Good point.
It's very beautiful, yeah.
I mean, we're making children's books, people.
Yeah, it's supposed to be joyful and fun.
It's meaningful what we do. It really does mean something. And it's like you just have to keep coming back to that.
Yeah.
So the last question that came in advance to me is just general advice for aspiring authors and illustrators. And then there are some questions in the chat, which I'll pull forward.
I'll start with this one. I would just say, for me, shout out to Mika, just to keep doing what you're doing and just keep posting your work on Instagram. Instagram is like an amazing platform. So just keep posting and keep drawing things for yourself, what brings you joy, because you don't know what kind of energy and vibes that other people are vibing with when you do that. And I didn't know Erica would come and feel my vibe and then we would be like clicking. So just, continue drawing, continue posting, continue trying, like just don't stop. If you really want it, keep going for it. And you always get better as you keep going. So
that's great advice. Everything happened for me through Instagram, everything, just because I posted little drawings and little stories and all of a sudden everything changed. So I think that's great advice. Yeah.
I have a question about that advice though. Just, do you think that you could do that too soon? If you're thinking about someone who's imagining a career and they want to build a career, is there a possibility that you could be sharing your work too soon before you've sort of arrived at the place you want to be when you start sharing it?
Well, to be honest, I started posting my work like from a long time ago, and it wasn't good at all. I mean, I just did it for fun, for like to build a portfolio for myself. And then I saw my progress, and I think that's a beautiful thing to cherish. Like, you get to see your art changing through time in a feed. Like, wow. And that's something like I really appreciate mistakes and the process that everything have to become something else. So I think it's very valuable to see other artists before they became famous or before they got published. It's precious to see that anyone can do it, actually, if you practice, if you post, if you keep going. So I would say go for it, no matter what. Go for it.
I would second that.
I will say that one of the benefits of the Instagram feed from the perspective of an author is that when you're having the conversation about who might illustrate a book, you usually, the first thing people go to is the other books that they've created.
Right.
But that can be really limiting for that particular artist. Like, they may have this other aspect or dimension to their work that isn't visible in the books they've published so far. And so Instagram is amazing to sort of propose someone who might not be an obvious choice at first, but when you sort of swim through their Instagram feed, you're like, look at that, look at that, look at that.
Yeah, absolutely. It just gives you more range and more possibilities.
Maybe I was speaking to the writing more. I think with the writing, I think there's an argument to like respect your apprenticeship a little bit and to not pitch too soon, to not necessarily circulate your early attempts, and to really like respect the art form, to really like, you know what I mean? People, you know, we've all heard people be like, I want to write a children's book. Like that everyone. And that's great, but it just overlooks the fact that it's also extremely difficult to do it well, and it's rigorous. Like, it takes a long time, I think, to grow and to understand the form. And I'm still feel like I'm learning so much about it. So maybe for the writers out there, that's not to caution you from stepping forward if you feel you're ready, but it's just to say, like, to have a healthy respect for the somewhat hidden complexity and rigors of writing for children.
Yeah, I agree that it has more complexity than people think. I mean, you're still a writer, and writers need to read a lot and need to study a lot and need to do a lot of research, and of course it has to be more like you said, honored in a different way, or the process at least. Like, yeah.
Because if you reach that moment when you want to find an agent, if it's too soon, it might not be quite right. What do you think?
Yeah, people will, like, I get this question a lot. It's like, if I submit and then I don't get an agent, can I resubmit? Like, have I missed my chance? And I think you can, definitely. I think you can definitely. I mean, I wouldn't submit, get a rejection perhaps, and then like submit the next day. I think what Matthew's saying is you have to do the work. And there's so many resources out there. There's books, and now especially that there's so much online, there is like an endless amount of workshops and critique group opportunities and resources for you to hone your craft, particularly from other bookmakers, writers, and illustrators who are so generous with their knowledge. And so that's a great place to start. But I do think sometimes people don't know because they don't. The critique group, which we do have a Stimola Live event in the works about critique groups, probably gonna happen in March. And I think critique groups are a great way to sort of combat that, because after a while you might not be able to see your work anymore. And it helps to have other people be able to put their eyes on it before you might go to submit, because you might be sitting there being like, I just don't know. But you can always go to SCBWI and look for your local chapter and find people that way too, who you can share your work with. I would say if you can do a conference in advance of submissions, I highly recommend it. It's a great way to make sure that you are refining your work before you send it out on submission.
Yeah.
I want to pull some questions in here, if that's okay with you guys. So Christy asks me, what is something you look for in the clients you represent? So I mean, like you are getting to know Aram and Matthew and Lala and Julie. I think you can see here how very, very lucky and blessed I am to be surrounded by such incredible people. That's not really just per chance. You know, I look to connect to people, and I definitely respond to people who are in tune with their inner lives and who sort of find their way through bookmaking and who really are passionate about book as an object and about bookmaking as a career and where it sits in the timeline and the history of bookmaking, and people who are looking forward and also looking back at what's been done before. So like just that comes to mind, being in this room with these bookmakers, that's a big part of it for me, is that I really love making books for children. And yes, it's a career and we're all looking to be financially, paid for the work that we do. But what gets me going is thinking about making things for a reason and for particular children, and because there's a purpose to it. So I like to know, when I talk to prospective clients, why you want to be a bookmaker, what it is you want to say, what's important to you, and why you're entering into this industry. There's other things about being communicative and being patient, and knowing what skills I can offer you and making sure that you don't need other skills from an agent that I don't feel are my best skill set. There's things like that too, I can talk more about later. But yeah, what about for you guys? What things do you value most that your agent does for you? And we'll just take two, just for the sake of time.
Well, for me, I like that you send me like ideas or you encourage me to try new things, because you know that I'm very about growth and personal growth at that. And you're like, oh, you should try writing a story for this. I'm like, okay, let's do it. Or like, here's something you should try drawing for this. So I like that you encourage that, and you help me, since I'm still new to the publishing world, you help me find ways that I can grow in those areas and learn about bookmaking and behind the scenes of publishing and how to do all that stuff. So that's what I appreciate for me.
We'll take one more if somebody has just one other thing that they want to add to that. What's the most important thing?
I know for sure that you are always there. I mean, whether we talk like every day at some time or we don't talk for a few months, still I know like I can reach you anytime and you will respond, and anytime you will support. So that is really important to me. And yeah.
Okay. Suzanne, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Such great information. I would like to ask, if you made book teaser trailers, websites, did you receive endorsements before your books were published? So maybe, are you guys handling your own book trailers? Are you handling your own websites? How much promotional assets are you making on your own?
I think these days, you can't really rely on the publisher to do a lot in terms of promotion. Like some will do a limited amount of things, but it is, I think, more and more it's on us to bring a lot of energy to that. So I think having a website is definitely important. And I think with Squarespace and these host sites, you can do that pretty easily. I think that's at this point pretty important. In terms of teaser trailers, I don't have the know-how in terms of editing, But like for The Bear in the Moon, Katya's husband knew how to help us. And so like, I'd see like reaching out and finding your resources, finding people who are willing to help you out with those things. But there is a lot of do-it-yourself kind of stuff that happens. And so you can teach yourself these skills. So yeah, that's what I would add to that.
Yeah, and also the teasers that are homemade are adorable. I love those. They have this quality and it's kind of kid-like. So I think it's great. Yeah.
I see like, you know, doing those apps on your phone that will do stop motion animation. You can do things that are crafty, that are eye-catching.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Canva is my friend. I don't know. I'm endorsing him. Maybe I should call them up. But really, it's such a great way to make posts for Instagram or a variety, banners and whatnot, because I don't have that know-how either. But that's been really helpful to me.
I think it's safe to say that you assume that you do everything on your own. But then, or not to say publishers don't do anything, because they do. And the thing that they actually submit your book for all the reviews and all the awards, that itself is already a lot of work that individuals don't get to do. So they can do the big work, and then the individuals, of course, ideal world, the publishers would do all the things and endorse you, right? But then, like now, there are some like divides of kind of the work that you can do and then work they can do. So it is, yeah, safe to assume that you will do all your like bookmarks and stickers and websites, and publishers would get you the reviews and will submit for your awards and everything.
And if a book picks up steam, the publisher will pick up steam with you. That's often what happens. And also sometimes your own excitement can excite the publisher.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you go into a school visit, for example, don't forget to take photos, the kids from behind, or video, and then share that with your editor, or if you know who your marketing and publicity team is. The more you share and the more you let your publisher know about, the more they have to work with. And you can rely on them to repost or to give you advice or to make introductions. It's really a team effort. From Ali, is it worth it to explore and write about a topic for children that has already maybe been explored in the past?
Inevitable, maybe, right? On some level, like
yeah.
There is no new story.
No.
It is just your own take.
It's the same with art, I think.
Yeah.
You're inspired by the inspiration of others. It's like a chain, but that's what's so beautiful. You're all connected somehow.
It's a great question though, because it's about how to make it fresh. Right? We've had this conversation. How to put your spin on it. How do you make it speak to kids now? So all of those questions, I think, are great ones to ask.
I do want to say that, so when you have these like topics you want to explore and story you want to share, I do want to recommend that you research and then see what books are out there, because if that same exact story is out there just from a year ago, that would actually make your idea really hard to sell. And it is surprising how many similar ideas you would find out there. So do the research, do your homework, and then that way you will actually find a little better way to make that story more unique.
And I would just add that instead of going out and being like, what hasn't been done, I can write about that. It's so much of a better call to go from the story that you want to tell, right? Or the mood that you want to create. And it should really originate from yourself and from some desire to share or tell that story.
I agreed. I think there is a often like question people ask, like, what's the trend right now? But then like you can never catch up with the trend because it's already happening. You always have to tell the story that you really want to tell. Then that will not matter with the trend.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because there's only your point of view. There's no one like you. you can still
For sure.
so much from you. Yeah.
I always say too, I mean, lately I'm not really watching the news too much. Although Peter Brown just posted online that you should keep watching the news. I'm like, I have to keep watching the news. I don't want to watch news. But I do think that engaging in media, whatever that might be, and following things you're interested in, these are different ways to inspire you, right? So like if you love I don't know, crabbing, and like that's something you love to do, and like spend time looking into crabbing. Like as a writer and as a bookmaker and as an artist, you have the unique opportunity where you can like steep yourself in the things that fascinate you, and it's what fascinates you. And once it comes in and then through you, it's going to inform your work and it's going to layer your work. And if you're worried about trends, that's where like the news comes in handy. Like what is happening in the world? How is it impacting you? How is it impacting the people around you? And since we work in children's book, people like the crabbing in the comments. Since we work in children's books, how is it impacting children? And what do you want to do about that? Because oftentimes that's where the trends begin. It's in response to what is happening in our world. And so, I think being aware of what is happening be aware what's happening inside of you and inside your home, but you also should be aware of what's happening in the larger world around yourself and in your community. And you should be responding to that as well. Crab life.
Hashtag crabbing.
I'm never going to forgive myself for this. Okay. How to figure out how to take this question off the screen. All right. Well, I know that there's other questions, but I do want to save time to talk about the fact that I am opening up my submissions, which I have been closed to unsolicited submissions for a very, very long time. And now I'm going to be opening up. And so I'm going to talk a bit about what it is I'm looking for. And so I want to thank Aram and Matthew and Lala and Julie for spending this time. I could spend all night with you guys. You want to come back on? I'll be here. And just honestly, I know how busy you all are, and I'm really grateful that you took the time to be here with us tonight. And it's been really fun to have you all together because that's not something I get to do a lot, and it's been a real joy.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you so much. It was amazing. Thank you.
I am going to put into the chat links to the books that Aram, Matthew, and Julie had coming out. Lala's isn't ready yet, but they're all linked to this amazing bookshop, indie bookstore in New Jersey called The Curious Reader. And so that store is my chosen shop for this event. I hope that we can support them, and I hope that you'll all support these bookmakers by sharing the word about their books and perhaps ordering them. I wonder if my post, so you know what? It's too much in one post. I'm going to do it one by one, and I'll do it while I'm talking. So I'm going to say a real official goodbye to Matthew.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I will talk to you all soon. Thank you for being here.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So now it's just me. So hi again. And let me just tell Matthew, Aram, and Julie, Lala, you guys are free to stay in the background and you're free to hop off. It won't ruin anything if you guys leave. All right, so I do want to put these links in here. The links are also on the Stimola Live website under this event. I linked to all their books at The Curious Reader, and so that is another place that you can find them. And I only have 2 more to put in. Thank you for bearing with me. I really appreciate it. Seems like a great opportunity to support my clients and to support The Curious Reader that does such a great job in their community. Okay. Okay, so the big news is that I am opening up the submissions. I'm really excited about it. I'm very nervous. I suspect a lot's going to come in, but the goal is that we're going to read them all. And I truly am looking for something, some new author illustrators, some new writers, some new books that just make me jump out of bed and call every editor I know and tell them that I have this book that I believe needs to be put into the marketplace. So I'm going to give you some topics, ideas, and then show you some books that are not my clients' books that I love, that I think kind of give a good example of it. So the first is Texts That Focus on the Jewish Culture and the Modern Inclusive Experience of Being Jewish. This is the first and foremost one that's very dear to my heart. And there are some books, like my grandfather's quote that I love so much. I happen to, in general, love retellings, folklore, mythology. But, I, as a Jewish woman who is not overly practicing, but a little bit, I'm doing more and more, raising two young Jewish boys. I am constantly looking for books to read to my boys. And at a time when there is still so much misunderstanding about what it means to be Jewish, I feel like it is my duty as a Jewish person to help get more books into the marketplace as a mirror and as a window into the culture. I'm also looking for author illustrators who think outside the box, have a unique, distinctive voice, and who take a creative approach to bookmaking. So some of you might know the work of Watkins, and you might know this book, Most Marshmallows, which I love. These marshmallows are actual marshmallows, each one that he drew on. Everything in this book he made by hands. That carriage right there, made by hand, and all photographed. It's just amazing. So I really would love to work with an artist who's who's making art in really interesting ways. I'm also looking for clever, interactive, tactile, sensory, playful, novelty formats. Like, this book is so book, this nonfiction book that talks about all these different famous people in history. You gotta see this. So how it works is you go to a page and then you learn about the person on that page by reading above, and then you can compare them. It's like a battle to see which of these famous people in history would win in these different categories. And it's such a great way to learn about history and about people who have influenced our world. And it's fun and interactive, and I love it. I also really love pop-up books. I don't know. I have never sold a pop-up book. I can think of some people I would sell it to, not a ton. But I really want my own pop-up book on my list. So some of you might know this. Sam Ida. Oh, it's just, it's just so amazing. And this one's also a comic. And I've been doing more and more in the area of comics, and I love it. And I am looking for more comics, more people who are making graphic novels. Okay, number 4. I'm looking for stories that take me on a journey to explore other cultures. I wrote these down. Stories that take me on a journey to explore other cultures' practices and beliefs, as well as the lived experience of people from diverse backgrounds. I know it's 6 p.m. I'll keep going for a little bit, but you can feel free to go. No pressure, but I will keep going for a little bit because it's just me and I don't mind because I'm having fun. So you might know about this book, Saffron Ice Cream, made by Rasheen, and it's such an incredible book about her experience in America going to the beach in the summer compared to her experience where she grew up, which is Watkins in Iran. And so it's like so poignant. And it's so poignant to read it with my boys. I can't even tell you. For them to see that difference in this other part of the world where they have never been, and to see her compare her experience of living here to living there, and the beauty in both, and the challenges in both, to be frank. That's an example. I Talk Like a River is written by Jordan Scott, who's a stutterer, and I am a stutterer as well. And so I'm happy to receive more books about stuttering, but it's more the idea about ability and challenges and disabilities, which in some ways our disabilities are our abilities as well, and how complicated that is. I'm very interested in that. But just representation in general, whether it's in fiction or nonfiction. So we have Pride. This is like such an amazing picture book. My boys living in New York City see, the flag all the time. And when they were little, I used to walk around with them. They'd say, what's that rainbow flag? And I'd say, oh, that represents love, that you can love anybody. A man can love a woman can love a man can love a woman, a man can love a man, and so on and so forth. But then to be able to read this book and give them the actual history of the flag, and it really sinks in then. It really becomes meaningful to them. And just the influence that people can have, the person who makes the flag, the person who designs the idea for the flag, the whole bit, all of it. Julian is a mermaid. For my boys to see, a boy character who loves to dress up and be flamboyant is hugely important, and it's just so beautiful, so beautiful. Each Kindness. If you have not read this book, it is heart-wrenching about, appreciating people for who they are. And even as a child, like being brave enough to recognize that we might not all be behaving the best at all times. And it really does make a difference, but you can rectify it before it's too late. And in this case, a lot of those kids realized it after it was too late. By Jacqueline Woodson and Evie Lewis, who, if you don't know their work, you should check it out. Mabela the Clever, which is a retelling. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but I love this book. It's a Limba story, and it's really a cautionary tale. To look behind you, listen to what people say, trust your instinct, and it does not hold back. I mean, it is. These mice have to protect themselves from the cat. And I read this to my boys all the time because we do have to be careful in this world. This was gifted to me by the McNeils. I was blanking. Laura and Tom McNeils, who are authors of YA and adult books. And I love them. And I love that they gave me this book when Caleb was born, so about 10 years ago. Okay. Books that explore the wonder of life in nonfiction and fiction. I'm also looking for emerging readers and chapter books and young illustrated middle grade comics. I like humor with heart, really zany. I love kid friendly. I love heartfelt characters. Yeah, that kind of is a list of what I'm looking for. I love nature. I love music. I love to make things. I love makers. I love perspective, like how we see things in the world. The inner life of people is very important to me. So before I was a literary agent, I was a teacher, and I taught high school. I taught theater and English, and then I became a dean. And so I worked with all the kids who were at risk, and I did that for a long time. This is a second career for me. I am extremely passionate about the inner lives of people and making sure that people know that they're not alone and that the feelings that they're feeling are okay, and how to deal with the big feelings that we have. And that sort of is a trend right now. I'm very lucky to represent authors who are already doing a lot of work like that. So that category is becoming very saturated especially now with the pandemic. We're all so worried about the emotional health of children, you know, in the years to come. And so a lot of wonderful books are being made to combat that. But there's still so many stories to be told, where we look at human behavior and the curiosity of it. And that really excites me when there's a story with a really complex character. I'm going to show you some books that I love, more books that I love. I'm just going to show them to you, and maybe I'll say a few things about them. Amandina by Sergio Rizier, about this little doggy who wants to put on a play, and she does it all, and she puts up flyers, and she rents the theater, and she makes the costumes, and she makes the set, and it's all amazing. But nobody comes. Nobody shows up. And when she opens the curtain, oh, where is that page? Nobody's there. But she performs it anyway. And it's really an incredible performance. I mean, look at what she does. Look at what she's created. And there's a little cockroach in one of the chairs who's watching, and goes out and tells everybody this amazing show is going on. And when she's done, she looks up and realizes that the entire theater is full. And just like this, isn't that what it's about? Sometimes we're making things and we think nobody is noticing what we're doing. But you have to make it anyway. And they will eventually notice it. Sarah Baron's New Shoes, which Caleb, my 9-year-old, fell in love with before I did. I knew I should get it because Mika Song told me I should. And then Caleb brought it into my bedroom and said, "Mom, have you read this book?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, not yet." And he's like, "You have to read this book. It's amazing. It's a comic, and it's funny, and it's interesting, and it's also nonfiction. I learned so much. I have to tell you, I learned this, and I learned that, and it's about a whole nother culture and a whole other part of the world." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, give me the book. I have to read the book immediately." So I would love to do more comics. I would love to do more nonfiction. I'm sometimes a little afraid of nonfiction, but I would love to do more of it, especially when it's like an interesting format. I love how she combined photographs. I think in here there are some photographs like baked into the work. Where is that? It's somewhere in here. I love that multimedia approach. Maybe I'm lying. Maybe she didn't. I think she did. Let's just say she did, even if she didn't. I don't know. Michael Hall, this is an older book, Red, a crayon story about this crayon that appears red, that is red, but he's blue. Everybody wants him to draw strawberries and cherries, but he keeps making water and ships, and that's okay. And it's a wonderful way to talk about identity. It's a really brilliant book. Enchanted Lion makes gorgeous, gorgeous books. And I'm lucky enough to have clients who work with them. And this is one of the ones that I fell in love with, Feather. This is such a great story about a girl whose mother passes away, and she's growing up with all boys, lots of brothers who totally beat up on her. And her dad was working all the time, and she's a pianist, and she loves to play piano, but she is tired of being pushed around. And so she decides to go into boxing, and she gets really good. And it's such a great story, a long, wonderful story. And I would love to get lost in a story. I know they say picture books should only be like, 400 to 600 words. Well, I don't agree. I think picture books can be long and luscious and take us on a long journey. I'm all for it. Don't hesitate to send them to me. I'm obsessed with the Hilda series. I'm also obsessed with Steven Universe. So just to give you a sense of the things that I'm reading and watching, I love Blackout. I love how this family learns to be together when all the lights go out, and they put their devices away, although devices are good because look, we're together. Freedom in Congo Square is such a beautiful book, and we brought it with us New Orleans when we could all travel back in the day. And it was such a great way to experience New Orleans and have this book along with us. The Night Gardener, it's so beautiful, and like the art is so beautiful, and it's so moody, and I love the mystery of it. I also love books like Today. This is just lists all these different parts of your day and the things that you decide. I really like compendiums in general, but I love books like this. How are we going to get to where we're going today? And then it's just a list of them. What are we going to wear? It's all the different shirts. I love bigger, thicker books. I love encyclopedias. I was obsessed with Encyclopedia Britannica when I was a kid. And you know, they just came out with like a new edition, which I bought, and I keep making the boys read it all the time. But books like this, which I know are not that easy to sell, certain publishers do it. A lot of UK publishers, actually. So I'm not saying this is like the easiest thing to sell, but I love them. These are all the things that we should appreciate that might be slower to develop, but that make our world what it is. I love totally wacky books, like In the Night Kitchen with Maurice Sendak. It's just, if you have not read this book, you really should get it. It's delicious. Retellings, looking at characters from different perspectives. I was, like I said, I was a teacher, and so I see how wonderful it is to be able to bring a book into the classroom, particularly like you could bring in, there's so many books about the Three Little Pigs, but as a teacher, I'm like, oh, I want to bring them all in and do a whole unit of all the books on the Three Little Pigs and talk about how you could tell stories in so many different ways. That kind of stuff gets me really excited. If you're creating books that you think work for the retail market and for the classroom, that could be a really good fit for me. And it's always funny to see what the last one in the pile is going to be. Interrupting Chicken. It's so funny. Kids love to laugh. And so I'm all about humor. I should go, right? I should stop here. I should stop here. Next time I'll show you what adult books I'm reading. But I'm gonna end it. I'll just scroll through really fast to see if there was anything in here that you asked me. You're basically just agreeing that you love all the books that I love, which is great, and that you're using them with your classes and you're reading them with your children and yourself. I really appreciate you all spending your time with me. Stimola Literary Studio is just the most amazing agency. It truly is a family affair and a boutique agency where not only does it feel like family among the people who work there, but it feels like family with our clients. And we work really hard to create that environment. And I like to say that like the clients I attract and the editors I attract and who attract me, it's all on the same spectrum of the same type of people. And you know, it's like, and there's all these different agents who are, we're all different, and you're going to be different. It's kind of finding the person who you feel like is going to like who are they going to hang out with, you know, because that's who you might want to sell your book to. So try to get a sense of who you think is the right fit when you're thinking about your agents. I want to put in here ways for you to find us. I put in the Instagram and Twitter earlier. And I want to encourage you to check out Stimola Live, the website, because it shows all the past events with the links that all of the clients at the studio have made. So there's book readings, there's how-tos, there's activity workshops, there's inspirational, motivational videos. There's a ton in there that you should check out. And then I'm also going to put in the actual YouTube channel, which you can subscribe to. And somebody just asked, when are you opening? Such a good question. When am I opening? So I'm thinking that I'm going to open on, I'm just looking at the calendar, on February 5th. Is that next Friday? That is next Friday. So in 1 week from today, I'm going to be opening. And so here's what you do. You go to the Stimola Literary Studio website. I'll put the link here again. And on the website, it has a way that you can submit. You submit it directly onto the website. And if you want to say in there that you were at this event, I will be very happy to hear it. You know, you want your query letter to be well written, but really the most important thing is the project itself and why you think I might be a good fit or my list is appealing to you. Details like that really matter to us. And yes, I'm a Badger, University of Wisconsin Education Program graduate. So February 5th, mark your calendars, Allison says, and I will leave you here and keep an eye out. If you have not subscribed to the newsletter, you can do that on the Stimola Live website. And that way you can find out about the next Stimola Live event that we're having. Am I gonna post my wish list? So on the website, there is like a little paragraph. So I guess I'll take those Post-it notes that I read aloud today and I'll fashion them into some sort of paragraph on the website so that you'll see what it is that I'm looking for. Okay. Thanks, everybody. I wish you so much luck and I look forward to seeing your work and I'll see you again next time. Bye.